All right, we're gonna start recording. We're giggling because we were having a Capture One and Lightroom conversation. Um, Thanks to everybody who's here with us tonight for this is our second image comp discussion, and our image comp discussion is really about putting images in, having a set of judges or critiquers, if you will, which is myself tonight and a guest, Craig Stampfli, who's a member of IEPPV and also a competitor and a wonderful full-time photographer out of Australia. And we're going to go through these images and we're going to talk about them. And so if you've ever thought about entering competition, this is a really good place to start. If you're nervous about putting them in the actual competition, or you just haven't quite gotten there yet, the next image comp discussion that we have, put some images in here and let's talk about them. If you are entering competition, this is a great test bed to see if your image is liked by those of us who are here. Doesn't mean that our opinions are 100% correct. Well, mine is mostly correct, and then there's Craig and everybody else.
Mine's about 50%. About 50%.
But it's a good place to sort of test your theories, and oftentimes we're so close with our own images, sometimes we can oversee things, and putting another set of eyes on it is what we can do here. So this is a very casual, very informal type conversation. So if you have an image in and you weren't here, you will get to see that, which is wonderful. If you're here, you get the benefit of asking questions if you like. So we are going to get started here. But before we do that, Mr. Stampfli, would you do a quick introduction of yourself and just let us know, how people can find you, social media accounts, what your favorite beer is, whatever.
Okay, well, the important one, favorite beer. That varies depending on the season, but now that it's starting to get cold, weather outside, a nice dark lager works for me. Social media wise, I have two Instagram pages, Craig.Stampfli, which is my general sort of everything, bit of landscapes, bit of cars, bit of whatever. And then Stampfli.photography, which is more my portraiture, my model work, my underwater stuff that I do with people. I'm based, as you said, in Australia. I'm in Brisbane, in Queensland, on the East Coast. And I've been a full-time photographer now for about 8 years, I think.
Good job. Good deal. All right.
Thank you.
So those of you who are watching, go follow Craig. His stuff is good. I'm not kidding, right? Like, I'm not kidding. He's got some great images, and he's been him and I actually met through TWIP, the TWIP network, This Week in Photo, through Frederick Van Johnson. Yep. So him and I have never actually met in person, but we're friends because we've been hanging out.
And look, while you mentioned Frederick and the fact that it's an online thing, I attribute my improvement in photography over the 5 or 6 years that I've been involved with knowing you on TWIP as a big factor in how I've improved. Part of it's been some of the image comps. Some of it's been the very straightforward feedback that you've given, or Frederick's given, or others in the community have shared. So yeah, I attribute a lot of my growth to interacting with you guys. It's been a big part of my improvement.
Thank you. Yeah. Community is really where it's at. And, not to promote like IEPPV or any of the other groups, but, being around other photographers and getting their feedback and getting their perspectives, whether you agree with them or not, we don't always agree.
No,
but you need that perspective. So, which is exactly what we're going to do here tonight. So
absolutely. So listen to what we say with a pinch of salt. And if you don't like it, that's fine. If you think we've said the right thing, it's obviously because we're fantastic photographers and we saw what you were trying to create.
Yes, absolutely. Guys, so for those of you who are in the chat kind of hanging out, feel free to pipe up, right? There's only going to be like 6 of us in here right now. So I would love to hear questions, verbalize if it's your image. Don't hesitate to pipe up. So what I have is I'm going to show you a screen share, and this is going to be in Capture One, just because that's what I'm the most familiar with. So Craig, if you want to see some dodging and burning, if you want to see some cropping, I'm working on a JPEG. So if you want to see some of that as we go through, we can do that, right? To give a little visualization, of what that looks like. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Perfect.
Oh, cool.
Make sure I can see everybody here. All right. And can you see that okay?
I can, yes.
Okay, so this is a portrait. So this would be in the portrait category, and it is
Mhm.
named Simple Beauty. And I
Mhm.
believe, Jim, I believe this is one of your images. Craig,
Yeah,
would you?
that's correct. I took this picture. I always have trouble with a name. You know, what am I going to come up with as far as the title? So that's always a tough thing for me.
Titles are really tough. My recommendation was to Craig Stampfli was to go look at jazz song titles.
Yep.
Sometimes they're really obscure and creative, and they work really good. But
Yeah.
when it comes to titles, simple is best. You've got to make sure that whoever's going to read out your title can pronounce it, and that it's not so long and it's not so clever that the judges don't understand it. So, Craig, take it away. Go ahead and
well, one question on your jazz song title, is that for mostly for portraits or for like all image titles?
You know, I think it works good for everything. Let's be honest, right? If the title is clever and it just sort of makes the judge think of something whimsical or creative, and your image is a whimsical or creative macro or whatever, that's fantastic.
I would suggest, though, find something. Often jazz songs have an international flavor, like it might sound French or something like that. If it's too difficult to pronounce, the judges might stumble if they're not familiar with a French word or something like that. So just be careful with some titles like that.
Right. Cool. All right. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Craig, we're going to try again. Let's have you go.
Sure. Sorry, I wasn't realizing. Okay. Love the image. The couple of things that stand out at first. The roses on the white roses on her head are a little bit bright. I possibly look at toning that down. I think there's possibly a little bit too much. Oh, okay. I can see the key line. And then just on her chest and her arm, there's a couple little blemishes, like a little freckle or something like that. I'd probably take those out.
That's a good point. Now, I haven't put a lot of effort into this, so those types of things will come out before I submit competition.
Yeah.
But thank you, definitely. Yeah.
The key lines, at least on my monitor, is very faint, so it's very hard to see the difference between the background and the border.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit better now. I could sort of see it. If anything, you need. I thought it looked like it was too top heavy. So although the frame on the border is even, I don't know if it would help if you shifted it up so that you had a bit of a chin on the bottom and less black at the top with the border and the background.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's also
just over that offline and just see if that works for you. But otherwise, it's a very, very charming portrait.
okay. Thank you. Color of the border or the key line has always been a question too. I always go with something light gray.
Yep.
Just because I figure it's a line.
Yeah.
Any thoughts there?
To me, just because of it's possibly the way it's coming through on Zoom, it's just very difficult to see the key line. If it's stronger on your end, in that it's very, very obvious, then you're probably okay with it. In this case, because you've got a very dark background and then a black border, it was hard to see the edge.
Okay. Now I did have a hair light on or a backlight, but it's not really showing real well. Does she look like separated?
Does it look like it's what? Sorry.
Does she look like she's separated from the background?
No. Not really.
Yeah.
No, there's no sort of edge around her shoulders or anything like that. It's just all sort of going quite soft behind her.
Okay, that was another feeling I had, and so I wanted to get your thought on that. Okay.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what Craig is saying. You know, in an image like this, it's so moodful, and if you're going to go with a really dark background, lean into that and do more like a film noir kind of style, where maybe maybe, you know, you're going to go, you know, like, here we go. Let me get back here. Like, let's say you're going to go like black and white, and you're going to bring the tones like, you know, way down everywhere. Right. So let's say you did something. Now, this may not be your vision, so I'm just kind of playing with it because I just want to give you a sense of something. Right. So if you were to bring down, and if you're going to do like a black background, this could work, right? Because you're doing that whole film noir thing, and it's kind of like a really nice moody image. If you're going to keep it color, which I do like a lot, because it is really wonderful. Watch those lights at the top.
Okay.
The flowers.
Yep.
Yes.
Kim, I'm gonna mute you. I don't know. I can hear you talking in the background. So watch those flowers. Okay. So like, let's say we flip this image. Let's say we flip this image upside down. Right. No matter where I flip the image, your eyes are drawn to her gloves and to her flowers. And so you have to ask yourself, like, is that where I want the judges to look first? And if that's not the case, then bring them down so that the mask of her face is the brightest, then maybe her shoulder, then maybe the gloves. And that's just some things that you can just do, you know, with like dodging and burning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So let's see if I can do this without making it look, I mean, I'm working on a JPEG, right? So yeah, so let's bring the brightness down, like bring the brightness down up there. And then maybe like on her shoulder, bring it down, and then on her glove, bring it down some more. So what we're doing is we're creating this layer of light just by doing some dodging and burning. And this is a beautiful. What's that?
Sorry, I was just going to say, now you've got a little bit more definition in the flowers on her head as well.
Yeah, and so it's really about just, you know, and this hand down here, I love the glove coming out, but I think that lead the viewer through the image with the light that you have and depth of field and body position and everything. And so some dodging and burning on this, I think you would take this a long way.
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. And so just to give you an idea of a score, without any of that stuff being done the way that I see it right now, I would be near a merit. I might do a 78 or a 79 as a protest vote, just kind of see, or score to see what the other judges have to say. But if you really worked it, I could see this being an 85 or better.
Okay. Well, thank you. I will. I like I like her mood, and I think it's worth putting more time into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one little nitpick, just watch this really carefully. Her hand is pushing on her chin. And so when you're posing, so it's pushing on sort of that little tuft of skin we have on our chin, and it's creating some wrinkles right there. So we just want to touch with the hand, but you don't want it to push the flesh, right? So no matter where they're leaning, and you could soften up some of those shadows and get rid of that look, but that can sometimes be the difference between whether, you know, you go up a point or two, especially if you have a judge who is a portrait photographer. You know,
okay.
They'll notice that stuff.
A question. So the eyelashes were put on, and they look a little funny to me. If you zoom in, is that something that as a judge you would care about, or it's just you're not looking at those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's like a glue or a glitter or something. I'm going to guess it's glue. I would take that highlight down. Craig, what do you think? That doesn't look like a good eyelash job to me.
It's just catching the light, and you don't want it to sort of catch the light. So yeah, I'd burn that down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And where you've got a few that are a little bit longer down the bottom there, sort of poking out, maybe just sort of even them up a little bit so that the actual eyelashes themselves at the bottom, where it's on her bottom of her cheek or top of her cheek, they're just a little bit more regular, just so there's no distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. So if you look at her eye there versus there.
Yeah. And you've still got good definition in that you can see eyelashes without it being a big bright spot.
Okay, that's good advice, and that's just burning a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, and we have to be realistic that unless you have like a 6 light setup in your studio and you're meticulously getting light in exactly the right places at the right time, there's nothing wrong with post doing dodging and burning and getting it perfected there. Sometimes it's better for the models too that you're not spending a ton of time getting the light just a quarter of a stop brighter here or there. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right, let's did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, Craig?
No, I think that's perfect. Thank you.
Cool. I think so let's jump
How about-
into this is Jim's other image.
Okay.
So Craig, go ahead.
So the key line in this is much more obvious, so I can
Mhm.
see where the mat is and all that. So that's good. I like the position of the hands is lovely. The top one is a little bit brighter than the bottom one. I'd maybe try and even that up just to burn that down a touch. And then the underside of the hat is a bit bright, but very, very pleasant, very beautiful. Nice black and white
Right.
too.
Okay, good. So, so I've got a couple things to say about this. She was wearing a dress that had print all over it. And when I talked with her, she was going to be wearing a solid color dress. And so this is one of them where I liked her emotion. And so I went way overboard on editing it and
Sure.
all the print off of the dress. I purposely darkened her back side just to get more drama.
Yep.
Another person was saying that maybe that wasn't such a good idea, but I think it gives it a little more drama.
I like the dark on the right hand side. If anything, I'd crop off a little bit of it. It might be too much. And now she's ended up center of the image, and there's nothing on the back. It's not even background. It's just black.
Okay.
She cropped off a little bit, so she was a little bit more on the right, looking to the left. I think that might work.
Okay.
I think for the only other problem that I've just seen or that comes up to me is the top hand. The couple of her fingers have been chopped off by the dress. It's a shame you can't see the hand fully the way because that's facing the photographer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she was
So
pushing into the dress a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe there's another version where her fingers aren't cut off that you would want to spend time reworking. But I think you may lose a few points on that. It is my thought.
I have a question.
Sure.
This is Nima. The key line being a little bit stronger on the left side compared to the right side, would that be an issue?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't think it is. I think that what you're getting is in the video stream, depending on the zoom, it's doing is it's changing. Because if I zoom in like at 100%, and that's what I was doing too. I was looking at it. I was zooming in and looking at it. See, it's nice and solid over there, and it's nice and solid. Right. Yeah, but good catch though.
Yeah.
Do you think this has a chance of merit or not so much?
I personally think that this has a great chance to merit, especially if you do some of the things that Craig said. I would thin off the background on the right hand side so it moves her to the right a little bit, and I would certainly work on like the brim of her hat and her hand to bring again, kind of like we did on the other portrait, is bring down those tones so that our eyes are not drawn to that first, and that our eyes are drawn to her face.
Okay.
The face is the baby bump is the secondary hero. Her face is obviously the main point of this image, backed up by the baby bump. But just that hand is just a little bit too bright.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'll see if I can find another hand. I'm probably I should be able to do that.
Okay.
And then back to I'll have to search my library for jazz songs.
I've got a couple of saved Wikipedia pages of jazz songs just for image comp.
That's funny.
Yeah. But great image, Jim. I really love this. And I think that, just even as the image is right now, you have a good chance of getting a low merit with some of the tweaks we talked about on this image. I think you can get, a mid to a little bit higher merit, right? Like sub 85, 84, 83. that fingers, the way that it's presented, is always gonna hold you back, right? But if you fix that and you do some of the dodging and burning and some of the other stuff we talked about, there's a real potential this can go a lot higher. So
well, I'll see if I can find another hand. There's not much I can do, but
right.
I hear you.
No, well done.
Now, to be fair, right? Like as a client, like this is perfect. You wouldn't fuss over the hand as much. Like this is perfect. Like this gets the green marriage. This makes the clients happy.
Correct.
Oh yeah, she loved it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
that's all that matters.
The judges are different.
Yeah. What do they know?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. You got it, buddy. You got it. Okay. Let's go ahead and jump over here. We got some. Actually, Kim is Kim on? Oh yeah, Kim's still here.
Make a wait to last.
Image.
Oh, cool! Look at that.
Yeah, we'll talk about one of Kim's images.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and jump in here.
Please, you're the wedding guy.
I really like this shot a lot. I like the use of the wall and the background. I love their smiles. It's really wonderful. A couple things that I would suggest is when you're doing weddings or you're doing any kind of couple is notice their body language. So look at how her head is leaning slightly away from him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this isn't something we can fix in the photo, but when we're posing people, it's natural that they tilt their heads away from each other so that they can look at each other and they can talk and stuff like that. But when they're looking at you in the camera, just ask them, say, hey, just tilt the tops of your heads into each other slightly. And it really changed the dynamic and the emotion of the image quite a bit. The only other thing that I would do in an image like this is I would probably add like a radio gradient and bring down the outside tones just a tad. You shouldn't see the radio gradient, but as you can see, like the outside wall, because it's that lighter concrete, it is going to draw your attention away. So it's better if we can bring that down somehow, however you would do that. So I would do that.
I have a question on this also.
Sure.
The hair on her right side falling on her shoulder, would that be a distraction for looking at her, or should it have been set before taking the picture? The other side.
On her right shoulder, camera left. Yes.
Yeah.
That would be something that you would want to make sure that you pay attention to as you're photographing. So I'm a big fan of either bringing the hair in and making sure that it's nicely laying over her shoulder or all the way back. Yeah. This split isn't ideal. But that's personal preference. Your client's not going to be.
But no, but for a judge, it looks like a little bit of an untidiness with the hair. That's why
I was
asking the question.
Yep, you would want to fix that. My only other suggestion to this before we hand it over to Craig is that when you shoot in a situation like this, think about the distance between your subject and the background. Your subject right now is standing very close to your background, which means your background isn't nearly as in focus or as sharp as they are. If you were to pull them out, 3, 4, 5 feet, if you could, then the background will go slightly soft, and you're going to create more depth in that manner. So, Craig, what do you think, sir?
I agree with the points you made, particularly with the hair. I'm a fan of putting hair back so that you can see the neck quite often. Right. Couple of things that I would like to touch up would be on the grass itself, where you've got a couple of dead spots where there's just a bit of dirt. Maybe cloning the grass to fill in those areas and near the train of her dress, just to sort of tidy up the grass. And that's the with a lot of the work I do real estate wise, we improve grass, so that sort of stands out to me. And then with the actual image itself, on the far right and on the far left, we've got these verticals that run down on the wall. I would possibly crop in just a little bit so we lose that little vertical. Yeah, right where you are, you can see that little gap.
Just this little
line. Correct. That's bothering me. And then similar on the on the left-hand side. If we just cropped it in slightly, just take away that distraction.
Yeah, and that's the architectural photographer in you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, straight away for me, the verticals are vertical and the horizontals are horizontal. So I'm a happy camper after that. Now it's just sort of filling in a few little things that sort of stand out.
Right.
Definitely the separation to the background for next time might be better. But yeah, certain little things that we could improve on this image to bump it up a bit. But man, do they look happy.
Yeah. And Craig, do you have any recommendations on how to repair this? How would you repair that grass?
Okay, so you're not going to remove the little edging. It's just the dirt in front. So I would sort of slowly clone in patches of grass just to make it try and look natural, but just where there's dirt visible in front of that rubber edging, which is not the prettiest to look at anyway. I would just sort of try and fill that in with a little bit of cloning and just slowly recreating the grass line.
Yeah. Yeah. Be careful with grass because grass has a natural high frequency pattern to it.
Yeah.
And it depending on how well you are at doing it, how good you are at doing it, it can be very, very obvious to some judges.
That's true.
You can see
in that case, if you struggled with that, I would then, almost like a sky replacement, I have files of grass that I shoot at different angles. I would just mask it out completely and drop in.
Of course you do.
Grass. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Different heights, different directions, and different sunlight, so that I can sort of match up best what a property looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
like
good.
Like a brush with the grass. Is it a brush?
That would be probably
grass?
a bit too obvious.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you got to be really careful too, because when you're working with like grass, like there's depth of field, right? So like this grass up here is slightly softer than maybe this grass back here.
Yep.
So if you were to clone that in, you've got to deal with all the depth of field and the high frequency that the grass has. So just
grass
be
is
really
a lot harder than sky.
Grass is horrible. Grass is horrible, especially putting greens.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, they're rough.
You got to look at where the mountain is.
Yeah.
Troy, do you have any suggestions in terms of placement of the couple below those 3 windows, or are you happy with how you've positioned or how they are?
You know, I probably would have tried to use the gap in the window, and because it's already sort of like a off to the thirds kind of thing.
Sure.
And I probably would have shot a little bit lower to move them up into that space, but I'm not too picky about that.
Okay. Yeah,
only
cool.
because, you know, being on a wedding day, you don't always have time, you know, like for the perfect pose and the perfect location, but the light is beautiful. The exposure is dead on. You've got smiles, you know, her dress looks really nice.
Focus is good.
Yeah. I would, just to get a little picky, is that when you pose people together, especially couples, you want to make their body language look more comfortable. And so what I always tell them is not only tilt their heads, but I tell her, put your weight on your left leg to lean into him, and him, I want you to put your weight on your right leg to lean into her.
Yeah.
And her hip will pop out. He's taking the weight off both of his legs, and like the shoulders relax. You know, like her right foot is pointing to my right. It should be pointing straight at the camera.
Yeah.
And that changes her hip line and everything. Another thing that I like to do with brides is, you know, they like to see their curves. So oftentimes when you pull the train in the back, we'll pull a little bit of material around behind just so that we can see, you know, her hip, and that kind of creates a little extra flow in there. So, you know, if that all makes sense.
Yeah. So. But again, it's a lot to try and remember on the day when everything's happening.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is where years of experience comes into it, but beautiful photo all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Kim, did you have any questions before we go into your next photo?
No, all very good, valid points.
Okie dokie. So a very different image here from the wedding image. Craig, I'll let you go ahead and start with this one.
Okay. Well, we've got, I mean, okay, firstly, we've got movement in the propellers. So that's brilliant. We've got a hornet on the left, and I'm trying to figure out what that one is on the right. A bear cat or something? Anyway, what a cool flyover. That's a hard capture.
Yeah, because they weren't flying together.
Yes,
Right?
they were.
Yes, they were. Yes,
They were
Really?
flying together.
They can fly that slow? Oh, wow, that's amazing.
They were flying together.
One of them's flat out. One of them's really struggling to slow down.
Where was this game?
This was at March Air Force Base at the air show, and they called this the Heritage Flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old and new flying together. So they both flew around independently, and then they did make a pass together. And yes, the jet was going as slow as it could, and the other plane was going as fast as it could.
That's
Now, just is there a sensor spot on the image there on the far right hand side? Okay, cool. So I thought it was a scratch on my monitor. Okay, so and there's another one top left.
There very well
see.
could be lots. I didn't.
right
Again,
there.
See,
I
I've got
did not-
nothing else to say, Kim. This is I really like the image because it's hard to photograph stuff like this.
I did not. I just put this together this morning. I grabbed it between teaching my trainees stuff.
We're
and
still
sent it in,
gonna
so I did
mark you
not
down.
look at spots or anything yet. So
Not too bad. Too bad. You're getting the full Craig this morning. I've had 2 cups of coffee. I honestly, I don't have much to add. I mean, I like that the angles are the same. You've got some nice background. There's no clouds to show speed, but then you've got the movement in the propeller, so that at least we know that they're not models hanging from a ceiling.
Right. What do you think, Craig, about putting more space under the planes than above them?
It doesn't bother me either way. I mean, they're flying up and over, so they're sort of flying into a space, particularly the Hornet on the left. It's got more space to fly into. It's typically how I would position a car with less space behind it. What we've got at the bottom doesn't bother me too much. Your thought?
I'm kind of 50-50, like my initial impression is that I want to see them up in the sky, so I want to see them higher, so I would lift them up into that space and I would put more space under them. That would be my inclination.
I have plenty of space all around them. I prop them this way, so I can definitely put more space underneath.
Well,
I was just trying to give them space to fly into.
yeah. Have a look at it the way Troy suggests, with more space below them, because he's. Do we say he's
keep the
more
same amount of
intelligent?
space above and add some more below, or crop it even more?
I would add some more space below. I think that it was not. Why is it not behaving?
And take some of the above away.
Yes. So I was trying to.
You want a tighter crop?
That's probably a little too tight, but it gives you the idea. This is one of those kind of images that for me, I would crop it and I would look at it for a long time. I would walk out of the room, I would come back and do something else, and I would look at it and go, oh, wow, that is better, or oh, that's worse. I like the idea that I feel like the sense that the planes are in the air, they're above me. And that's just my personal preference, as opposed to the way that you had it before. Actually, I can duplicate that and I'll reset it. Okay, there we go. So like this one, I feel like they're just too low, but that's completely personal preference.
Now, Troy, what are your thoughts on the blue border? Would you leave it blue, or would you go a traditional black or a gray?
The blue is fine. I like the blue, but I would go darker.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you do for keyline? Because I had it black with a dark blue keyline. I didn't like that. Then I put the dark blue and I put a black keyline, which you probably can't really even see. So if I went with a darker blue, you're not going to see the keyline at all. So what would you suggest for a keyline?
You don't have to put a keyline in it. This is one of those type of images
I must.
You must.
I must.
I don't think you need a keyline, to be honest. If you want to go with the black background and then you put a dark blue, border, that's fine. But the reason that we put a keyline in the first place is to separate the edge from the matte, right? To really make the image pop. And this image has equal tone in the sky pretty much all the way around. Yeah. So I don't think you need a key line. I think that just lean into darkening the back of the mat a little bit more. I think you're solid. Yeah, I think you're good. Yeah.
How about turning the planes around to show them going from right to left?
Your numbering would be backwards.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Well,
there
you should
is-
definitely do that, Kim, and then you should enter them. And if no judges pick up on that, then
No.
Brad Tom says use red from the flag on the plane.
Yeah.
I would say no.
I was thinking white from the star because it's not quite a very, very bright white compared to like the 56 on the engine.
I have always been ultra conservative on key lines. And anytime that I'm judging and I see images that have too much effort put into the key line, I feel like you didn't put enough effort into the image, right? So I'm a huge fan of super simple presentations and let the image win for you. Yeah. So everybody has their style, but you know, I would lean into simple.
Yeah.
All right.
Very cool. Kim, do you know what that plane is, the blue one?
I could look it up. Offhand, no, I don't.
No, that's cool.
It's a propeller plane.
Right, thank you. Okay.
Isn't that called a prop? Is it a prop?
I just take pictures of them. I don't know what they are. In fact, I met someone at this show and they're going, oh, I'm underneath the wing of the B-52. And I'm like, okay, it'd be nice if I knew what a B-52 was. So, I'm like, I found the C-17 because it said on the side C-17.
Fair enough.
B-52 did not say it was a B-52, but I did find that I was at the right plane. But
awesome.
I don't know. It's a big plane. It's got really long wings.
All right, let's jump over here. This is going to be a pet portrait. So Dobie loves. That must be
so cute.
I know that is super cute. I love this. Do you want to start, Craig?
I can. I've got very little to say. It's just a little bit warm, a little bit hot on his chest, and that's it. Yep. I mean, we've got these floppy ears. We've got lovely catch lights in the eyes. The background, it almost looks like it's like a satin that's been like a roll background type thing. So very cool.
Hey guys, so we haven't talked about titles. I don't know if these don't have titles, but that's always something I struggle with, and I'd love to hear the thought process if you talk about that.
Absolutely. Craig, why don't you go ahead and start with that? We chatted about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the suggestion I had from Troy a few years ago was jazz songs. Titles of jazz songs always can make for an interesting title, unless you've got something obvious in the image that speaks to you. How you'd find a jazz song for a dog, I'm not too sure, but again, I have a couple of websites just on jazz songs that I scroll through when I'm looking for a title.
So here's where my mind is at. I'm looking at the picture. He's a cute puppy. There's happiness, a lot of playfulness. So my mind is thinking something along those lines of playful innocence or youth, and I don't, that's where I'm trying to, because I've heard over and over in some of the competitions, you want to lead the judges into the picture because they hear the title first, and then you see the picture and it's to support it. So I'm trying to think of, what would support this image? What would I even call it that would kind of bring out the qualities? Because he's got a great little smile.
Oh yeah. I mean, just the floppy ears are really. Is it a Doberman?
It's not mine. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Dobie, so I'm guessing it's a Doberman.
Just because it's got a long tail. I'm familiar with Dobermans with short tails or cut tails.
Yeah. So, Jim, like what you're asking is the hardest question of image competition, right? To be fair,
taking the photo is the easy bit.
And so what I always do is like if I was going to describe this image to somebody, which you just did, somewhere in there is your title, right? So if in there is you're like, oh, I've got this really super cute Doberman and he just looks like he's smiling. Maybe that's your title, right? Like, big smiles or ready to play or
Yeah, and I guess that's really my question is what gets your thought process going? I wouldn't just go through a library of jazz songs. I would
right.
look at the image and then what about the image do I want to bring out in a title? And maybe I'm answering my question. Maybe you're saying the same thing. I was just trying to get the thought process.
So for me, some images speak for themselves, right? I think this is one of those kind of images that I don't need a lot of help understanding what's in this image. So it doesn't need to be a clever title. You don't need to tell me that it's a dog. You don't need to do any of that. So really what you want to do is you want to try to get me to just understand like it's going to be cute. And maybe that's your title. I'm just cute. And that's it, right?
Here's a good boy type thing.
Some images are complicated and the judges may not know what they're looking at. And I'll give you a perfect example was I was judging down in San Diego a long time ago and they do the color run down there. What basically is they run and they have the big smoke. I don't know if it's smoke or whatever it is, right? There's colored powder everywhere and stuff like that. I had never seen that before in my life. And so the title was something they didn't even have had color run 19 whatever. I'm like, I don't know what the hell color run is. So it didn't work for me, right? And two of the other judges didn't know either. So I guess what I'm getting at is if it's a subject that you think you need to explain, then you need to be more clever with your titles.
Okay, well that's helpful.
Yeah,
I think that's helpful.
Yeah, if it's a subject that's obvious, right? This is obviously a bride and groom, or this is obviously a dog, or this is obviously a maternity. Well, then you can name it simpler, right? Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful.
You could name this, Mother's Day, which you did. You could name this Expecting Sarah. Maybe her name is Sarah, right? You could name it Expecting. You could name it. I mean, go simple, right? That's my guess.
Okay, well, I like what you said, and that does help. So some pictures do need a little guidance, and I get it.
Yes.
And I'm not a judge, but I would be very wary of naming things like after places, such as Troy was talking about color run, and he didn't know what that was. I had an image I entered one time and I called it Wall Street because it was Wall Street, but it's Wall Street in Zion. And the person who's looking at it is thinking Wall Street in New York. So this rock place shows up and they're thinking Wall Street, and their comment is, I have no idea what this has to do with Wall Street. So naming it after the place that it is not always a good thing either. So yeah, don't just name it where you're at either.
And I will also say, if depending on the competitions, every competition is different, but if you know who the judges are and you can look them up, and let's say that you're going to get a landscape photographer. That landscape photographer almost assuredly knows Delicate Art or Wall Street or any of those things. And maybe you want to play to that judge's strengths. Then you can name it clever. But that's not always the case. So you got to be careful. So to speak to this image, one thing Craig, you pointed out the hot spot on the chest. I absolutely agree. So, like burn that down quite a bit. I would also try to bring up the floor a little bit, because for me, I don't really like to see like the dog floating in space. And I don't know, Craig, if you agree, but it feels a little too dark, or maybe that's just the way it's coming through on my screen, but it's a little too dark. And I feel like it needs a foundation. So just the tiniest little bit.
Now, one more from me, Troy. Does it look like the dog is sort of rotated slightly to the left? Or
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
No, I mean, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I was gonna say, great job keeping everything in focus, nose to ears. Like, what a great mug.
It's a great dog. I think this would do well in competition.
Animals usually do well.
Yeah.
Animals and flowers.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Super cool. All right. So our next image is titled "Mi Amigo."
Oh wow.
Now
Okay,
that
so
title works, right?
that
Like that
title works.
title, yeah, we get a little giggle out of it.
Little,
And
yes, quite a buff-looking Chihuahua.
I dig it. Yeah, it's super
Yeah,
cool.
I think the door or fence behind really gives us the dog a diminutive scale, so it works even more, makes the dog look even smaller.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a good title. Really cool photo. Very strong image. There is a lot of space around the dog. You could possibly crop in a little bit tighter.
I was waiting for
Yeah.
you to say that because I didn't want to.
No, just yeah. I don't want him to be in the. That's cool. Yep. That's gosh, looks even smaller now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Anytime you have space that isn't part of the story, like you really got to ask yourself, like,
Yep.
I mean, do I need all this? Like, do I need all that space over there?
Yep.
And I've done a lot of critiques on TWIP, so Craig's heard it a lot. Is I'm always cropping. I'm
Yep.
always cropping everything, and I just feel like this image could be so powerful with just the right crop. Even
Yeah.
no, it definitely.
I preferred that other one you did. The one it was a little bit rectangular. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
My comment is the vignette too obvious?
That's a really good point to bring up. Is the vignette too obvious? I would say yes. In this image, it is too obvious. You can see the vignette here.
Yep.
Right. You can see it here. Oops. I don't think that we should be seeing that vignette. So be really careful about that. So
yeah, I'm I haven't submitted to too many competitions, but I'm extremely careful with the vignettes, not to leave it too obvious even for the clients.
right. And
Sure.
so in that, to that respect, like if you were to come in and we were to like manually bring some of that hotter spot down,
Mm-hmm.
then
Dog pops even more now.
Yeah, the dog pops, the vignette becomes less obvious.
Gives you a little bit more separation to the background than what you had before. It's not quite so close, even though it's still the same.
Yep. And if you can see the vignette, it's too strong.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Generally speaking.
I was a little bit confused about the matting to begin with, the border. I'm not sure it's even left and right. The right-hand side to me looks to be a lot wider. Nope, sorry. Oh, so maybe I'm looking at the desktop. Sorry.
Yeah, you're looking at the desktop. This has almost no.
Oh, so it's more like a key line.
Yeah, it's a key line.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, I thought that darker gray on the outside was a border.
Yeah, and what I would suggest with this image is I would suggest cropping it the way that we showed and putting it within a mat, which would help make the dog look smaller.
Yep.
Right. And give it more sense of scale and give the image a sense of depth. So just keylining it and dumping it like this, I don't think that you're really doing yourself justice for how good an image this is and the scale of the dog. So I would say crop it a little bit and then do a nicer mat where maybe you put the window in the maybe top right quadrant or maybe the lower right or something so that it gives a sense of space. And you don't have to fill the frame. So love it.
Yeah, cool.
All right, let's move along. I am gonna jump. Oh, here we go. We'll jump into one of mine. So this is an image that I spent 4 hours on today because she wanted that necklace added. And
oh wow.
Yeah, so that was a very important necklace to her, and this is just one of those lessons for all of us, is, to be really aware of, do you have a necklace that you should have on, or did, wait for mom with the necklace and reshoot it, because this is like a family heirloom. So this was an image that I had to spend some time on and figure out how to put a necklace in.
Jeez.
So yeah, it
Yeah,
was
right.
fun. And what's really fun too is this, the reason that I picked this image is because it was just I had to do that work. So I'm proud of the 4 hours I put in. And I photographed her when she was 1 year old, and then I get
Oh,
to photograph
wow.
her wedding. Yeah, it's super
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ariel, it's
Very
super
cool.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. So, all right, I think this is one of Craig Stampfli's.
That's one of mine.
Yeah. I'll start, Craig. How about if I start on this one?
You're not going to have to say much, really. I mean, it's no, please go
Well,
sick.
the fake sky and the fake sun rays. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
that is 100% all real.
I know it is.
For those watching at home.
But don't you hate that when a judge looks at that and goes, "Yeah, that feels like you dropped the sky in."
Yeah,
it happens. It happens.
It happens. But this is what you have when you shoot in Western Australia. It's just that perfect.
I do dig the image, and I think what I love about it the most are the layers of not only of light. So we have the dark, the light, and then the dark of the boat, and then the light of the background. But we also have layer of color. So we have the warm tone at the top, and then we have the white, and then we have the cool tone at the top, then the clouds, and then the warm tone, and then the cool again, and then the rocks. And I think that whether that's super intentional or you just kind of liked it, I recognize that as something that adds value to the image, because it gives me more to chew on, right? It gives me more to enjoy. And I'm so glad that you have a person in there on that boat. There's a harbor up here in Cambria, outside of San Simeon, and there's always a sailboat in there. And I photographed it like 1,000 times, and I never love any of them, because it just no scale and stuff, So yeah, this is really super cool.
It would have been great if there was a bird flying by too.
I have a friend that his images he's always dropping in 2 or 3 birds.
That's not a bad idea. Depending on the category you're going to enter this in, do what you need to do.
Sure.
I would say, Craig, I would play with this rock in the lower right hand corner. I'm not sure that I'm a fan of the blue.
Okay.
In the rock. So I might neutralize the blue, or warm up the blue, or take some of the blue out. Like I just feel like it's competing with the water.
Right.
And I love the blue tone in the water.
Guys.
What's that?
I'm going to leave. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just want to let you know.
No worries.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I got a lot of good ideas from you guys. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
So I might do something. Actually, I think I can actually do that. So if I go in there and I can pull, let's see, we'll go color, basic, blue. Yeah. See.
Okay.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can see the difference.
I can see what you did there. Yeah, a bit more realistic.
It just feels less competitive within the
Sure.
image. Just the tiniest little bit, right? Just the tiniest little bit. So
yeah,
I do love that.
No problem. That's a good suggestion. The key line, is it too bright?
I mean, you need a key line that's going to be that strong, because you want to create that separation. I would probably try to take it thinner if I could.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can go thin and bright, as opposed to like large and gray, or not as bright, because it's less prominent.
Less prominent. Yep.
You may want to you may want to play with some colors too. You know, like a little bit of orange or a darker blue or something. And that's the hardest thing, is like you want that separation across the top, but at the bottom, you don't want it to be super strong.
No problem. Thank you.
And I love your matting where you bumped it up, so you created a little chin at the bottom.
Yeah.
Which gives us this sense of more foreground. Which
That was the intention, just to lift it up a little bit, and not just make it square all the way around.
Right.
But the image is as taken, and then just obviously filled with.
Very nice.
Did my plain picture benefit from having a mat that way where the bottom has more space on it?
I do, absolutely. I was just going to say that. So it's great that you picked up on that. I was going to suggest matting very similar to this with either one of your crops, with any crop. I think that you could benefit from that.
Okay.
All right, let's jump into, I think this is this Brad's? I think this is Brad's.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, infrared.
IR, yep.
Yeah, cool.
Go ahead, Mr. Stampfli.
Man, it's gorgeous. The leading lines aren't quite even across the bottom, but everything's pointing straight towards that tree. Those moody clouds are fantastic. I think this is a case where all that space up top in the clouds, I'd keep all of that. I wouldn't crop much or any of it. I think it works really, really well.
While you were talking, I'm gonna.
Yep. That's better. Yep. So now the corners line up with the rows. Yep.
Something like that, right?
Something like that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you've got this great, you got the tree in the horizon, like right on that perfect third, but I feel like
I'd break it.
Yeah.
And then you just emphasize the sky even more, because there's so much character and mood in the sky. And just the way it's light in the middle, right above the tree, that's so beautiful. Well done, Brad.
Might even do. Yeah, that kind of mutes it a little bit too much. I was trying to bring out. I was trying to bring out the tree, because I think that what you have here, Brad, is I think you have a lot of tones that are the same. And so I would work on like creating a little bit more tonal depth in there. And maybe the way that you could do that is you could even bring up the tree a little bit. So let's lean into like those highlights. This is gonna look really sloppy, but it might give you a sense.
Yep. There you go. Brighten up the tree a touch.
And it doesn't have. Yeah.
Now just above the tree to the right, there's a little dark spot.
Take that cloud out.
Yeah, it almost looks like sensor dust to me. Where I realize it's probably not. It's just a cloud, but it's a distraction.
That one.
Yeah. Yep. I'm looking at it and wondering what it is, rather than just appreciating the rest of the image.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's definitely a cloud.
Yeah.
But I agree. It is annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
My other thought was this grass, like these little tufts of grass. I'm wondering, Craig, I'd be interested to know what your thought is. Like these.
Yeah, I was looking at them thinking, you sort of realize what they are. There's, a little bit of tall grass, and it's sort of, you have to really look at it close to understand what it is. I think if you got rid of it, it simplifies the image too much, makes it too almost perfect. Right. Whereas now you've got that little bit of an imperfection and something else to sort of maybe look at, hopefully just briefly. But then you're back to the tree, and to me, it's just the clouds above the tree that really are the story.
Yeah.
They're really beautiful.
Yeah, this is really great, Brad. Even though we're picking on it quite a bit, you have an amazing image here. I do think like you have some vignette going on down here in the bottom, which I think is a little too strong. It's okay that it's dark, but try to blend it in, into the tree a little bit more naturally. If that was something you added, if it's not, then I think you should still.
I'll raise up the shadows or whatever.
Yep.
Oh, Amelia's coming in. Yeah, but I really love this. And then one of the things about infrared is inherently a tiny bit soft.
Yes.
Not like it like an
Yeah, I haven't
eyewash
sharpened
soft,
this yet. It'll look much
Okay.
better if it's sharpened.
but not
Don't-
just sharpen, okay, but like a dehaze or a clarity layer where you
Clarity.
paint it in the right places. Not overall, right? Because like if we just crank clarity up, it doesn't look
Yeah,
fantastic.
you destroy the clouds.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
And
Yeah.
all the foreground and the tree that just need a little bit, I'll say sharper, a little bit crisper, without destroying the cloud.
Right. But like what I like to do is I like to take the spots that I like the best, and I'll just get in there like by tone, and then I can add, clarity maybe just in that area of the clouds, right? Like not everywhere.
Yeah.
Just to give you more to chew on in the image.
Dramatic look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nicely spotted though. Now, Troy, would you get rid of those tall bits of grass?
I probably would.
Okay.
And then I would look at it and see if I like it. It's hard for me. I mean, like, I don't want the judges to ever be distracted by anything ever.
Sure.
I just think that somebody like me that's very OCD, that I'm going to be distracted by those, and I might not give you a couple more points bump because they're there. I might
Because
be
they're there,
conscious, right?
They would be easy enough to remove as well.
Yeah, I take out anything that doesn't add to the image.
Sure.
Right? So if those weren't there, would I be sad? No. So I would take.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, fair enough. Beautiful.
Welcome, Amelia. I saw that you just popped in here. We just got done talking about your images and how amazing they are. Let's look at this one. I think this is Brad. I think this is yours as well, correct?
Yep.
Now, this one's really interesting for me because it's going the exact opposite in the tonal ranges that I love the most.
Yeah.
And I'm not only curious what Craig thinks, but Brad, I would love to hear your thoughts on why you went this direction with the softer tones.
There's softer tones, but there's also like a mist layer that's at the front rather than at the back, where you would expect that hazy sort of misty feel to be.
Right.
I don't know if that's what you meant. To me, it just sort of seems like it's clearer at the end of the tunnel than at the front.
True.
Yeah. So it's almost like a reverse vignette where you've gone that whiter, old-timey look. Whereas maybe a darker vignette, I don't know if that would have worked.
Yeah. I mean, did you do that on purpose, Brad?
You know what? I was just playing around with it, and I needed to get a couple images for tonight. So
nothing wrong with playing around. Nothing wrong with playing around.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of, and you're right. Now that you mentioned that definitely need to have more mist in the back than up in the front. It should get thicker as you go into the image, and not thicker as you're
at the foreground.
Right, foreground.
The road's very bright.
Yeah.
I almost want to crop off so that the road just sort of almost finished at the bottom rather than having a little bit of a step, just so we had less road.
Yep.
I don't know if that would help image much.
Yeah, let's try that. Do unconstrained. And so you're talking about like
right where the grass meets the road is cropping it square there. Yeah.
Both sides. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because right now cropping it, it's obvious that gate, that opening in the back isn't in the center either.
No.
So let's get it in the center.
Yeah, that works better for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sort of helps make the road that little bit smaller as well. And I'd probably try and maybe burn down the road a little bit anyway.
Who's gonna do is my okay, here we go. Sorry, I was gonna try to throw in a little style in here and see if it changes the look at all. See, this is what I imagine. So if you're gonna go with that hazy look, I imagine like an old photo with kind of like a desaturated, almost chromatic, you know.
Change it to black and white.
I mean, you could do black and white, but this is what I wanted to show you. Here we go.
There's a lot going on for black and white. A lot of textures
Yeah,
and
a lot of, yeah, that looks a little interesting. You know?
that, yeah, muted again. Yeah, I see your old-timey look.
Yeah, and now you can totally see that it's off center.
Yeah,
yeah.
Now that we cropped it, yeah, you can totally see.
Sorry,
that.
Brad.
Yeah,
There you go.
and then black and white.
No.
I love what you're doing with this. I think I really love the vision that you're going for.
Yeah.
And then for me, this is what I see when I look at the start of your images. I see something where it's more old-timey, muted colors. You know, the path is leading me through.
Yeah. There's an old Georgia Savannah plantation around the corner.
Right.
That springs to mind for me.
Yeah. Go out the gate, make a right to the crossroads.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah. Super wonderful image, though. I think that's really cool.
Where was this, Brad?
That was in Georgia.
Enjoy. Okay.
Let's see here.
Cool. All right. Let's see. We have one more. This is one more from Brad, I think.
Okay. Yeah, this is cool.
Go ahead, Mr. Craig.
Beautiful. Yeah, really nice. It's almost a silhouette. I almost think you want to lose the shadows in the bottom so that it was a true silhouette.
Oh, see, I lifted it because I thought, and I originally had it that way.
Okay.
So I thought about, I just, you know, you always hear the judges, I'd like just a little bit little bit of definition in there. So I said, I'll lift it a little bit, but I probably went a little too much.
Again, what do judges know? And I don't know, just to me, it just seemed like a nice silhouette. Yeah, that's cool. And then you've got judges, just lovely warm tones behind.
Yeah, the judges are always wrong when they're judging. And we've all judged, so we've all been judges, and we're always
absolutely
wrong.
Yeah, don't listen to a word I say. Yeah, I like the water's beautiful, lovely texture. The sky, just with that little band of cloud running through it, is gorgeous. The sun where it's sort of finishing off. I might lose a little bit on the right hand side just to get rid of the little branches and things sticking up, or remove them in post.
Okay.
Because there's just not much. We've got something happening on the left with the texture of the water. That bit on the right to me just seems a little bit distracting. And I just, those three different trees are beautiful. Even the one that's fallen over, that branch thing sticking up, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, this one right here in the middle.
Yeah, correct.
What do you think? I mean,
it needs a bit more headroom.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I was going to say.
Yeah, okay. If you've got more to add, or if you can create it, which shouldn't be too hard, I'd give it just another ½ an inch, just to give it a little bit more for the. At the moment, it does look like the top is pushing in on that tree.
It just feels crowded up there. Yeah.
Right. And you've got space everywhere else.
Right.
But yeah, nice capture.
And I
was
agree
that
with Craig.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Okay. So you must have had a beer in one hand while you're operating the remote trigger in the other.
Yeah. Actually, it was funny. I was actually photographing something else, and I just happened to turn around and look.
Cool.
And I saw it, and I just did it real quick, handheld.
Yep.
And I actually liked the photo a lot. But again, I'll have to create the top, the additional space on the top. It shouldn't be hard though. Should be pretty easy.
No, the Photoshop tools, I mean, because it's more tones and textures there, so that should be relatively easy. There's one, the tree on the right-hand side, at the bottom, you've got a branch hanging down.
Take that out?
Yeah, I'd probably take that out, just because a branch.
It does look, yeah, okay.
Other than that, I think it's really beautiful. Very soothing,
Yeah.
very calming.
Greg took everything that I was going to say. I was even waiting to reserve to mention that. Like I was going to be all clever and but yeah. So just to highlight, and then you want to get rid of, I think, play with that, Brad, what that space is to crop on the left. But I think, yeah.
All right.
And what a great lesson for all of us to learn, right? Is to turn around and to look behind us sometimes.
We get fixated on what's in front of us and you don't stop to see what else is going around you.
Right.
Yeah, well done.
And to that silhouette, right? To whether or not you have detail in here or not, I'm really split on that as a judge. I think that if you need detail in there to tell a story, then I want to see detail in there.
Sure.
If I don't think we need it, then I'm okay without it. I would say for your own lesson is listen to the judge, who that judge is. If that judge is a landscape photographer, then maybe there's some merit to that. If that judge is a architectural photographer, well, maybe that they're looking at it from their perspective, right? And so,
if you got rid of the detail, you end up with a very big big amount of black. So that could be maybe too much.
Right. Well, where it sits right now from my screen looks pretty good. I mean, it looks like he darkened it down about half of what I had it. So I think it's, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
okay. But you can still make it a little bit,
You can still see a little bit of stuff in there, but it is definitely too bright right there.
Fair enough, yep.
Correct. And I think by bringing those shadows down, you're creating contrast in the image and you're allowing the sunset and the colors to pop a little bit more.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Merit?
Probably depends on your judges.
Yeah. Again, it's just it's a simple image, but it's a very soothing, relaxing image that we should be able to appreciate for what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Okay.
Now something that I never forgot, and I think it was Craig Peel that actually said it, but he said that, how is this different than any photo any photographer standing there would have taken? And if it's a beautiful snapshot, it's a beautiful snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something epic in it, so how do you get it there, right?
Right.
So whether something like this would merit, I can't tell you. Would I merit it?
It would probably merit possibly in the regular categories, but maybe not in the upper levels where you would expect like a long exposure with softer water and things like that, maybe a bit more movement in the cloud. That would be my thought.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. Lots of good points there. Lots of good points.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have one more image and we will end on Craig's image.
Okay.
Craig, tell us about this.
So this is Sugarloaf Rock in Dunsborough in Western Australia. I was over there with Peter Levshin for we had 2 weeks in Western Australia. And this was sunrise one morning. So we got up nice and early and clambered our way down the rocks and shot in different areas and what have you. And I ended up with this one here, which just shows the rock itself, which is quite a popular photography spot in that part of the world.
Yeah, it's really nice.
And just played around with the colors and what have you. So it's probably a little bit richer than it should be realistically, but a bit of a long exposure. And then you're just trying to separate the orange of Sugarloaf Rock from the surrounding foreground.
There is a white spot on one of the rocks on the left side that you should take care of.
Yeah, there is.
My spots in the sky. Yep. I got your spots on the rock.
Thank you for seeing the one on the rock is actually a marker point, and I've taken that on some of them. Others, I can't. Sorry, where Troy? I couldn't make it.
It might be right there.
Okay, point taken. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kim, for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, but I love your image. I think it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this is really wonderful. I'm actually, while you're doing this, I'm kind of playing with a few things that I think that, where I see some areas that I would probably play with is first of all, you've got these super dark clouds in the top right hand corner, which I feel like is a heavy vignette, and then the clouds themselves are a little bit too bright. So, if you can even out some of that tone in the sky, and I'm doing a crappy job, of course, but if you can even out some of that tone in the sky and bring that really dramatic detail across, either add the detail and the drama, or remove it from the other side of the clouds.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's more even. Right now, I think what I'm struggling with is that you've got this area of the image sort of like off center to the right, like like right here.
Okay.
It's actually pretty bright.
Okay.
And
I need to go back and, because I think I may have dropped these clouds in.
Okay.
I need to look. I might have. I'm not sure. I know I'm on one version of that morning. I know I've swapped out the clouds a couple of times. I'm not sure if this one is or not. If it is, I can easily play with that.
So let's imagine that we had some good tonal separation, and again, this is, obviously you understand, right? Because we're on JPEGs, but if you could create some separation where, let me just duplicate that image and reset it. So here we go. So just real quickly, darkening the sky a little bit, bringing up some emphasis in the light on the rock without making it look fake like I did.
Yeah.
I think that what you're doing is you're shifting your attention to the rock now, and everything else becomes a nice frame in support of that main character, right? That's the hero.
It needs to be about the rock. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I love the crop. I think the horizon in the top third is fantastic. We don't have too much clouds, and I love the fact that we have all these very, very interesting rocks in the foreground. Except for this one right here that I think you need to work on.
I can possibly do something about that.
Yeah. So
I'll retitle it Kim's version.
Kim's version. That's great.
I'd be honored.
Well, that is all of our images for tonight. Does anybody have any questions? Amelia, I know you popped in a little bit late after we talked about your images. We're happy to answer questions for you or look at your images specifically if you'd like. No, I don't know if she can hear us. Jim, how are you doing? Do you have any questions or comments?
No. I picked up a lot, and I think you guys are great. I appreciate it.
Sure, of course. All right, let me stop sharing so you can see our pretty faces instead of the wonderful images.
Go back.
Oh, Amelia says, sorry, I don't have a mic connected. Okay. All right, Amelia. We talked about your images quite extensively. We love them. We love them both. We had some cropping suggestions. So I will make this recording available right away so that you can check those out. But beautiful work as always, Amelia. I love
any hate mail directed straight to Troy.
Yes. I get plenty of my email. No, Amelia would never send me email. She's sweet. We get along.
I just want to say thanks to Greg for helping us out. Appreciate it.
Oh gosh, my pleasure. Thank you. No, thank you. Yes, I feel quite privileged to be asked, and if I can come up with one or two good suggestions, and that's great. Thank you.
Oh, very, very well done. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for pointing out all my flaws. I appreciate it.
Back at you. Yes.
I truly do, because I learned from it.
Oh yeah. Look, that's the problem. If you look at an image for so long and then you file it away or you print it, that's it. But if you study and look at it and come back to it over several days, and you look at it upside down and you get somebody else to look at it, they'll point out all the things that you've missed because you've glazed over it.
Well, Brad has seen the image hanging at Peter's gallery of one of my seaweed shots that has a tiny piece of trash in it.
Yeah.
And it was a several $1,000 acrylic print.
Oh gosh.
That I did not see that trash. And I'm the one responsible for prepping the images.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Happens to the best of us.
helps to get eyes on it. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. Those who are listening to this, go head over to IEPPV.com. Check out our calendar. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. We're going to be doing the image comp discussions every other month, right? Which is usually 2 weeks before image competition to give everybody time to get images into competition. So that's our goal, to do that. We also have a Joshua Tree trip coming up. We're planning a Death Valley excursion. Yeah, go check out the calendar. We got tons of cool stuff. You can always email me directly at troy@ieppv.com, and I can direct you to anybody on the board. Brad and Kim are our image competition chairs, so they're working diligently to get that stuff up and running for you. And that's it. So, hey, thanks everybody for being here. Everybody have an amazing evening. For those of you that are watching this recorded, hope you're having an awesome day wherever you are, doing whatever you're doing. So
absolutely.
Everyone take care.
Thank you.
So I was questioning Craig whether or not his skies were real.
Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. For the most part.
How often do you end up swapping skies?
To be honest, not that often. I want to work with the sky that I've shot. The only time I'll swap out a sky is if either there's nothing there, there's no clouds, or I've ended up with a massive big hotspot where I haven't exposed correctly and I really can't play with it. Then it's a case of I'll swap it and I'll look for something that was sort of similar. But for the most part, I try and work with what I've shot, particularly if I'm going to use it for an image comp. But like you said, we've got that little library of clouds, and that's typically where I'll get something from.
Yeah, when I put clouds in a lot. I'm doing it a lot more now because Photoshop makes it so easy. And because we have, like really clear blue skies here in Southern California. But when I drop a sky in, it's usually 10%, 10-15%, just so that it's not like paper white, right? So it's just blank. Sometimes Margie or the client will ask me to do something creative, and then I can push it a little bit. But I don't want anybody to realize that there's clouds in there, but I don't want them to just see blank if possible. Yeah.
Well, often a blue sky is just too boring. You want a little bit of movement or a little bit of cloud if you can.
Right.
Yeah. Without it stealing the show.
Yeah, I was doing some a wedding album reorder today, and there were a couple like really cool attitude shots, like shooting low and the groom shooting up at the groom with the trees, lots of blue sky. And I shot this thing in 2017, this particular wedding, which means I didn't ever think about at that time dropping clouds. But now I'm like, well, I've got this great collection of clouds from Australia. I'll just drop something in there.
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, they're good.